Hi, my name's Nick with Machine Gun Dad. Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode of our field strip series, we have a Select Fire Swedish K. It's got the fun switch. So, let's go ahead and take her apart. We've moved in close on our Swedish K. Now, showing clear, bolt to the rear, open bolt gun. There's nothing in there, nothing in the chamber, no magazine to be found. Now, in order to disassemble this gun, you have to have the bolt forward. Moving to the back of it, there's a collar on the back with this little depression you can push the recoil spring in. So you're going to be pushing that and rotating this collar to the left. You can see right here where it will come off the back end of the receiver tube. So push in, rotate to the left, and that cap comes off. I will make a note about that cap later on in the video. There is something you need to know about it. Recoil spring comes out the back end. So, does your handy dandy little bolt. Now, moving to the front end of the gun, up here, there is a very tiny little locking pin button on the front end of the gun where the barrel nut ratchets down into. This thing is puny, so I'm going to be using a punch to push it down because my fingers, I don't have any fingernails on there, I cannot get that thing to depress. So, push that down just enough so that the teeth are off of this little pin here. And then you're just going to rotate until this collar is no longer threaded on. There we go. And just grab onto the barrel shroud and the whole thing will pull up off the front end of the gun. Then, getting your barrel out is even easier. Grab the barrel, pull forward. That is that. Now, you have a fully field stripped, disassembled, and because we shot some corrosive ammo with this today, cleaned and freshly lubricated Swedish K. Let's go ahead and reassemble it. First step on reassembling the Swedish K is going to be same thing but backwards, as is every single time we do this. There are a couple things to note, however. You can see on the barrel, there is that notch right there on that collar. That notch will line up with this pin post that pokes out the top end of the receiver tube. So you take your barrel, you line it up, push it back, it is not moving. Then you're going to go take your barrel shroud, put that over. Once again, that pin will line up with a cutout on the front end of the shroud. Lock it back, trying to rotate it, it will not move. Then you take the collar and you sit here and thread it back on. Then when you get to the bottom, you will start hearing the ratcheting as these teeth grab onto that really tiny thing that we had to depress to get it off. Now, moving to the back end of the gun, once again, I'm going to be taking the bolt, lining up the charging handle with the slot in the receiver tube, running it back. It's going to get caught on the sear, pull the trigger, run it forward, take your recoil spring, run that into the back, make sure that your recoil spring, I don't know how well you can see that, inside the receiver tube, it's going around the back end of the bolt. Now before we get this collar back on, that quick note that I mentioned, this collar can rotate out of the back. You will notice that on the inside here you have 3 pins, 3 holes. This collar on the back end has to be locked in to make reassembly easy and not you fiddling around and rotating it and hoping to God that it lines up correctly. So you can see, I don't know how well you can see it, but the wide cut on this is a tiered piece. There's one side of the hole which is a bit closer to the center, and there's one side that's a bit further away from the center. You're going to want to line up the pins on the inside with the piece that's a bit closer to the center and then rotate it over. Once that's rotated over and locked into place, then you can just push this onto the back end. This pin will line up where you need it to, and it's going to go together a lot easier. But if this is out and you didn't put it back together correctly, it takes a lot of annoyance to get it back together. So we are going to push that down, get that pin lined up, and then rotate it over, and now it's locked in. It's not coming out, but if I were to turn it over, I can pull it out, slap it back in, rotate over. Now it won't come out. So now that that is reassembled, it's going to make getting the nut on the back end a lot easier. You see where the collar locked onto is where this catch is going to wrap around. This pin on the back end of the collar will line up with this slot on the back end of the receiver tube. Put the recoil spring on the inside here, line this pin up with this slot on the receiver tube, push forward. It might be a little finicky, just get it in. Now that that is in that slot, the pin is lined up, you can see that the catch here is past it. Rotate to the right, and now it is not coming off the back end. And that is your fully field stripped, reassembled, and freshly cleaned and lubricated Swedish K. Thanks for coming to the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on Rumble. We have a lot of really cool things going on Rumble. So, I hope you stick around. I hope you check out all of our content. Thanks again.